Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bricks with Facilities Management, a production of Facilities Management Communications where we give you a behind-the-scenes peek into how facilities management builds and maintains a campus known for its beautiful architecture and grounds. My name is Trey Wood.
And I'm Grant Peterson.
And today we're going to be talking to Mr. Hank Moreman, Manager of In-House Construction at Facilities Management.
And he's just going to tell us a couple things about what they do, things that they've accomplished in the past couple years, and what they're doing in the future.
Hank does some of the coolest projects on campus.
That's right.
Lots of old buildings, lots of cool architecture, lots of interesting stuff. I'm excited about this one.
Me too. Let's get into it.
Play me that theme song. Today we're talking with Hank Moreman, Manager of In-House Construction for Facilities Management. Hank, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic for a Wednesday.
All day.
Grant, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
So happy you're doing good. So, in-house construction.
Yes, sir.
For our listeners out there, explain a little bit about what in-house construction is in your own words.
In my own words. So I say this a few different ways when people ask me outside of the university. The easiest way to describe it is we are a functional, self-performing construction company within the umbrella of Auburn University Facilities Management.
I like that.
The reality is we're a group of highly skilled tradesmen, some good project managers, and we are able to ebb and flow with the needs and schedules of campus. We're a way to, we believe, offer great cost savings to the end users and clients. And we, we don't have to charge mobilization fees, and we're able to line up work that we go in. It's not uncommon for us to show up to a classroom that we're redoing, and then we're told, oh, by the way, we're also going to be testing in the room next door, and we can't let you work between these hours. So we will go in and we'll do what we can. We tend to come in kind of early, and we get what we can 5 minutes before that time that they've given us. We leave and we go put sheetrock mud somewhere else, or we're able to kind of move around, and we're able to schedule around weird work schedules.
Right.
Like, it's not weird. It's normal for us to have an 8-hour productivity on one job a day, or an hour a piece on 8 different jobs. Both are just a normal day. So we like to say we're the ninjas of construction.
Y'all are the sand in the jar. You fill in the spots.
We fill in the spots, and we move like ninjas.
You do a lot of detail work.
Yes.
As well. Y'all, like you said, you have a collection of very skilled tradesmen all doing different things. The RFID lab with the airplane fuselage that can also become
lots of things. We're actually engineering it again right now to make it another thing.
The International Space Station.
Right. So we've done space capsule before. That was part of the original, but now a different capsule that I am no astronaut, nor do I claim to be, but there's different modules on the space station. So now we're replicating more than one module.
The RFID, the radio frequency identification, is such a specific school. How did you run into a project like that? Like, did they come to y'all and be like, hey, look, we need an airplane in a hangar?
I'm a little vague on the beginning of it, but it's my understanding that it began to work up kind of a scope, and got an engineering firm involved, and due to the nature of the build, it became obvious we don't just need to hire a contractor to come build this thing.
Right.
Now, it's a substantial structure, but it's so uniquely built, you don't need just to send over a bunch of framers. They weren't going to be able to figure it out. So we actually sent over a framer and 2 finished carpenters, and that's who put it together.
3 guys?
Yes, did it with 3 guys.
That's crazy, because that thing is humongous.
It is, and it took them about half the time that they were expecting, which is why also I think we're expanding it into new things, because they had money left over, and we were able to take it. I think it's got 4 different applications at this point, and they're looking to try to increase it into more.
You've never seen this thing. It's literally a
Seen
giant.
a picture.
Yeah, but
I've never seen it in real. I don't know
never been inside.
how big it actually is.
Well, it's an airplane.
That's large then.
It's
I mean, it feels like you're in a 730, 747, something like that.
it's a big boy.
It's bigger than the last airplane I got on. And that was to
And
fly,
3 people made it.
And that was to fly to
impressive.
that was to fly to New England. It's bigger than that airplane. So
That is impressive. So what's the thing you're I guess most proud of that you or your team have all done together?
As I mentioned earlier, when I had a friend in town from 24 years ago who hadn't seen Auburn, I want to take him and show him not just what Auburn is now, but kind of what I do too.
Right.
And the first place I always stop is the cupola in front of Brown Koppel. A lot of weird math that are not common to construction.
Well, that's right on top of the underground facility.
Right.
Right.
And so, I raised my hand and said we could do it. I knew I had a pretty good handle. It was kind of young, early in my career. I don't think I'd been here 2 years yet. And so, but I was starting to get a good handle on the skill sets available in our group.
Right.
And we had just hired a guy on whose work I knew well. We had worked together before here. And I knew that he would be capable, and with another guy leading the ship, that it was going to go well. Now, I had no idea that the 2 guys whose skill set I wasn't completely sure of yet, I didn't know that they were going to blow me out of the water like they did. They invented things in the back to mold plastics. Like we made heat boxes back there. We made all these things because we did have to form. We wanted to use synthetic materials so it wouldn't fall apart soon.
Right.
And so we're back there with heat boxes. We're making these crazy arches and making them all identical. It was wintertime. It was cold. It was nasty. It was kind of sleety out there the day they were doing that.
Right.
But they were so happy because they were able to do this thing that it was a challenge that they really, really enjoyed.
Right.
And I think if you took either of those 3 guys and you said, go show your wife something here on campus you're proud of, every one of them would go straight to it. It was beautifully built. It's patina gorgeous. The copper's just greening perfectly. We had to make a lot of modifications. The architect was in D.C. and not here, so that proved to be.
What was the holidays?
And yeah, it was an exercise in communication. How's that? And we
I think that's everything, right?
And we came out stronger at the end. But I would say that, with a close second of Langdon Hall.
Yeah.
The front gable of Langdon Hall. I've lived in Auburn essentially my whole life, and it had never been this nice. The window's always been painted. I didn't realize the reason the window was painted is because when it cracked years before I was born, somebody just put duct tape on the back of the glass and painted the glass. Like that was their solution. And,
that would be my solution, more than likely.
Well, it worked for 40 years, 50 years, but
that's a
eventually
pretty good return on investment for 40, 50 years
for
a piece of duct tape.
Yeah, that's true. But like when we got into it, there was some confusion on how to remove the paint. It just wasn't going well. So again, same 3 guys that knocked the cupola out of the park came up with they just raised their hand and said, "Hey, boss, we can't do this way. It's we're hemorrhaging on the budget, and we've got to rein this in. We got to do it right." I'm also very, as a side note, grateful that the guys that work for me really do care about the budgets. Like they and these are like, we don't ever usually get to the point where that's a problem because they're all kind of budget.
Well, that's part of the challenge. That's part of the challenge in and of itself.
Well, so what they did was they came back to the shop and they built all that exterior trim in our shop and took it out there 16 feet at a time and put it up. And we had to replace the entire gable. The entirety of the front gable is new.
Right.
We rebuilt the sign out of all synthetic materials. We did keep the old sign for posterity.
I got a piece of that wood. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, it's I drive by it a lot, just in my route of life outside of work, and I never don't smile. It always makes me. I'm just proud that we were able to do that.
I mean, that was one of my first jobs. Not necessarily one of my first, but like the big introduction for in-house construction for me when I started was Langdon Hall, because it's so old, it's been there so long, it's got such a varied history going from one side of the city to the other and then being rebuilt, which is an engineering feat in and of itself, that they literally dragged it over on timber logs and then rebuilt it. And it's like, okay, this is...
And didn't just rebuilt it, radically changed the architecture without rebuilding the building. Like, without changing the building, they changed the, went from Tutory or Plains Church. I don't know what that style's called.
That's right. To like a conference center.
And now it's this beautiful Greek revival, big. It didn't look so prominent in its original iteration.
Well, it was a Methodist church, wasn't it?
It was the East Alabama Masonic Women's College.
Yes.
Which started in, don't quote the year here. If Auburn was 1856, it started in 1854. Like, it was the first college in Auburn.
It's the oldest building in Lee County.
Correct. Not in its original foundation. That would be the chapel.
Right. The oldest building that got drug halfway across the city and then put back together.
Which is funny, you say it's across the city, and at the time it was. Now we would call that 2 blocks.
Yeah, well, it's all in the eye of the beholder.
It is.
Well, speaking of the chapel and strange architecture that looks nothing like it used to.
Oh, yes.
Y'all just finished off that one as well.
Yes, and that one, we did have some challenges. We found some structural sheetrock. By the way, it's not designed for that.
Well, there is a door that is also not a door on the outside of it, or at least it's not a door now.
So we go in there to do a, air quotes here, facelift in the bathroom,
right?
But you can't lift rock, and so we wound up having to gut those. I mean, when you say gut, you kind of mean back to the studs. No, we went further than that.
Right.
We kind of made it a whole shell and had to bring them back. But now it's really nice.
Oh yeah,
it's a beautiful, beautiful space.
We talked about this. I don't remember which. I think we were actually in the recording studio when you kind of said that y'all are kind of the scalpel of facilities management. Like, you've got detail work. You can do large scale things, but a lot of your jobs end up being specifically about small details. Mm-hmm. Making old buildings new but still old, so that you're not losing that history, but you're solidifying it for the future.
Right. And for the majority of my career before I came to Auburn, that's what I did as well.
Right.
And I guess the ship moves at the direction of the head, and I've always loved restoration. I've always loved taking. I mean, even when I was a little kid, I would try to fix things up that should never have been fixed up. And
VCRs.
Yeah,
that was my thing.
Mine was bicycles.
That's fair.
My first bicycle was Frankenstein. Didn't have nothing on my bike, but dadgummit if it didn't go fast, or at least faster than I did when I was walking.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah. We are, speaking of Haley Center and in-house construction and awesomeness.
Yes.
We are renovating 75 rooms in that building. We're doing 75 rooms this summer.
Y'all are renovating offices?
No, all classrooms.
Just the classrooms?
Not all of them, but
some of them.
All the ones that are, I forget which control group it is, but all of theirs. Okay, for instance, our project this summer.
Yes.
And I forget how many 18-wheeler trucks it is. It's a lot. The one at Haley.
Oh, right.
Just for chairs and tables is like 18 tractor-trailer loads.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most classroom space. It's the biggest classroom.
And we're not touching more than 15% of the building.
Probably.
And that's 18 trailer loads of just chairs and tables.
Is that the biggest project you're doing right now is the Haley?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Since I know there's always things in the pipeline, like long distance stuff. Which one are you...
looking forward to?
Most excited about?
Petrie Hall. I want Petrie Hall. I can say that we are pricing the outside right now to facelift the outside of Petrie. Not alter in any way. Just bring back to its glory. So we are Petrie Hall. All the historic buildings excite me. I mean, I really, really like getting into them.
Of course.
The best or the biggest project that we have on our books this summer is the Haley Classroom project this year.
That's a lot of space.
Started it this morning.
It sounds like your group of people are very well trusted, that every job is different, and it sounds like you trust them to do
Absolutely
anything. And that even if you don't know how to get it done, they're like, we're going to figure this out and we can get it done.
You know, we in construction joke about napkin sketches and napkin budgets and all that. Myself and one of the guys that works in-house years ago, we literally built a house off a napkin. We sketched it out, and it's a beautiful home now. It's up on Lake Martin. But yes, to answer your question, I do trust these guys. I kind of, not interrogate, that's not a good word. I try to stay really in their head to know what they're good at, what they want to be good at. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a gentleman down there, Caleb, who one of the best painters I've ever encountered. And, you know, he has aspirations to be an HVAC. And, you know, those two things don't usually go together, but, you know, we'll find a way. It'll be an interesting journey to get him from paintbrush to HVAC tools. It gives confidence, maybe. Yeah. So I know that I like to know my own boundaries.
Oh, for sure.
So that I can be confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
And it seems to work out. You're doing a good job.
We try.
Man, sometimes, you know, sometimes you just got to see, and I'm sure your guys feel the same way, like when it comes to like challenges, when it comes to projects that seem bigger than what you normally do. You know, I feel the same way, like when I'm fixing my house, going on to do something that I've never done before, but I know I can and I know how to do it. It's that same idea when it comes to like doing the podcast or doing something different, that you want to rise to the challenge. And that's what it sounds like. A lot of the projects that y'all do are like taking things that are not necessarily out of your scope, but difficult or something you've never done before. And then you figure out a way and you do it correctly. And then you're like, look at what I can do. Sense of accomplishment, which sounds like what you and you guys have a lot of times. Plus, I mean, you've got all this absolutely ancient architecture that you're getting to play with, which is, you know, for lore buffs like us, that's neat. And I'm sure your guys love it too. There's nothing, you're digging into the bones of this university.
You know, we had a new guy one time. We were in the Sanford third floor, and you know, I mean, he was still kind of had the starstruck. I cheered for Auburn my whole life, and now I get to work here. And
absolutely.
And when we were moving some stuff, and there was this pile of bricks there, Stephen goes over and he looks at him, and somebody's like, "You know what that is?" He's like, "No, what?" It's like, that's what's left of Old Main. Like that's old brick. Like, don't look at it too hard; it'll fall apart.
Hank, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
This was fantastic. Some of my favorite stuff. You know, it's always nice to have a fellow lorephile for Auburn. It's always cool. I love the work you guys do.
Thank you.
I think it's super cool. I think you provide something. There's something about in-house that keeping the projects you do in-house makes them more special. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for hanging out with us, Grant.
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
Of course, every day.
As always, every single day. Yep. All right.
Thank you.
That's it.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.